So the first game we're going to talk about on the podcast is Michael Strogoff.
Designed by Alberto Corral, artist is Pedro Soto, and it's published by Devir Games.
All right, so one, I messed up a slight rule, but it didn't change anything at all. The ending?
Yes, it did. Well, for our last game, it did affect the ending.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
It didn't affect the gameplay at all. It's just that somebody may have been able to win is the only difference.
Yes, right.
But no one cares about that. Anyway, so Michael Strogoff is based after the Jules Verne novel of the same name. There's a lot of, like fanfare as far as like the book in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of tied together.
Yeah, the story. I totally just tripped over all my words, but yeah. So it ties in really nicely. If you're a fan of the book, you're going to see a lot of stuff in here that you're going to be like, hey, I know that. Hey, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't know anything about the novel except for what I know now after playing the game and reading a little bit afterwards. After reading about it and seeing what people say, apparently it is the theme is strong with this one. So you have a board. And I'm not going to tie it into the theme at all from now on. It's just going to be the game description. So you have a board, and basically each player is trying to race to the end. There's like 12 steps that you can go to. And each step that you go to, you're going to meet dangers. And these dangers are in the form of cards that have an icon on it. And if in any time you move to a new spot, you get one of those cards, and you have a double of the same icon, it's going to cause you to not be able to travel any farther, and you're going to suffer a lot of penalties on these journey cards that you've collected. And so as you travel, you're going to be pausing, and on your turn, you've got like 3 different actions. One is you can advance and do what I just said. One is you can rest, and you get to draw extra cards, or you get to flip some of those journey cards face up, because when you get penalized, sometimes they'll go face down just to give you an extra step to clear them out. Or you can also regenerate your energy. You need energy in order to move forward. The last thing you can do is clear out your dangers or resolve them or whatever it's called by spending cards in your hand that you start with or get through the rest action, and you match the symbols up, or you can play 2 of one symbol as a wild, stuff like that. As you're moving along, there's going to be a trader, which I can't remember his name, but he's like the main bad guy of the whole thing.
Ivan.
Ivan. There we go. He's on the outside of the board, and he has his own track. After all the players have taken a turn, he's going to move according to a card. The same action cards at the bottom have these different things that he's going to do. So you flip that over, and he might move between 1 and 3 spaces on this track. And depending on the number of players, he starts further or farther away on this track too. So he's going to move up. He's also going to roll a die most of the time. And that die is going to trigger any of these special abilities that you have. So you start with a special ability, and as you clear out those dangers, you get to keep one of them each time you clear them out to add on to your special ability. And it basically just has a number, 1 through 6, and it has a special ability where you can possibly help clear off more dangers or draw new cards or gain energy, things like that. There's a couple that you can actually burn. They're one-time use ones that allow you to like advance again or possibly increase your hand size, stuff like that. So in addition to that, he, instead of rolling the dice, sometimes he will actually bring out an ally, essentially. Not really an ally, but it's more of like an event. Like this, one of the dudes from the story, or dudettes, comes into play at the top of the board. There's these 4 slots. They'll go into one of those slots depending on what the card is that Ivan flips. And
those are the Tartars.
Those aren't the Tartars.
Are you talking about the Meeple that goes back and forth at the end?
No, I'm talking about the characters at the top. The deck of cards that flips over in the spot A, B, C, and D.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, those are good guys.
Yes.
And so they have a special ability. At the beginning of your turn, you can discard one of your action cards that matches their portrait, and then you can activate their special ability. It does random things. The Tartars that you're talking about is this black die that will also get moved at the end of Ivan's action. And it essentially tells you what space it's going to go on. It's going to between 7 and 11. Mm-hmm. And each of those spaces might increase or decrease its strength. It's just a D6. It starts on a 3. So it might move to a space that gives it +1 strength or -1, or it stays at 0, whatever. The reason they're there, though, is because as you're traveling, if you move on to the space that they're at, you have to roll a die roll to beat them. or if they land due to Ivan's action, if they land on the space that you're at in the story, I guess it's saying spoiler alert, right? Because it's been how many hundreds of years? I don't know.
Yeah.
Jules Verne. So they will take like a sword and burn out your eyes, and you get like this permanent journey card that goes to the left of your board instead of to your right. And it's essentially going to give you 2 icons that you can never get rid of, except for the very last part of the game. Now, there is a timer to the game because Ivan's running around the outside of the board. And if he lands on the last space, and this is what we played wrong, the last space is not actually the final part. Other than the demo, I guess I missed this one little paragraph in the book because I was reading it on a PDF online. So I was like reading and doing work at the same time. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But the last space is actually, we just ended the game. So we thought it was like a hard set timer. What happens is at that point, you put Ivan onto the final space, and then the Tartars will actually start, instead of going onto a space, they'll start moving backwards towards the starting space.
Oh.
So for the most part, it would have gave our play sessions maybe 3 to 6 turns extra.
Right.
It's depending on how you roll.
How you flip out the card.
They move the same as...
Well, they don't. How I thought I read it was you roll the dice and they move that many spaces.
No, they just move the same spaces that Ivan would move.
Okay.
But regardless, though, it doesn't change our gameplay. It just means that somebody would have won. I mean, because even without that happening, we got to the end pretty much each time.
Jake would have had time to sit there and rest up, I think, to be able to...
Yeah,
be a little bit
rest up
more
a couple
effective.
rounds.
But what it does bring up the fact of, it is in... I guess we'll just go in what we're thinking. It is impossible. I cannot see, like, on the track where Ivan's moving, eventually he gets to the point where... I should tell you how the ending works, by the way. So the ending works like this. You land on the last space. You have to fight Ivan. The first thing you have to do is clear off all your negative cards, including your blinding card if you have one. Then, depending on how far up he is on the track, he's going to make you draw 3, 4, or 5 of his cards from his own deck. And side note, I should also note that each space you move on as you're advancing, these dangers get harder and harder. It's not really relevant to know how to play or to listen to what we're talking about, though. But Ivan has his own deck where you're going to flip out cards, and each one has an icon. If you can't succeed at that icon by discarding a card or whatever it is, you're going to spend an energy. And if you run out of energy before you flip out all 3, 4, or 5 of his cards, you lose. Otherwise, if you do all his cards, you win the game. So there's a single winner. That's why it's a race. Now, the thing is, though, I don't see a game getting to the point where somebody's going to draw 3 cards. I mean, like, that would have to be the most perfect game for you ever. You know what I'm saying?
He would have to move very quickly, and he would have to move very slowly.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing up the fact that even though we did the rule where it was like a hard set timer, it changed nothing. All it did was, you're right, Jake would have been able to rest another turn, get a lot of cards, and beat it.
Right.
But as far as the gameplay and the experience, I don't think it changes anything.
No.
So, I mean, unless you disagree, Eric.
No, yeah.
Unless you just got that disappointed by not winning.
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, but it didn't change what you're doing. I mean, we were already cautious enough to where it's getting to the end. I mean, sure, it basically would... I think our flow would still be the same, is what I'm saying.
We just didn't get to finish.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyway, what'd you think of it, Matt?
I mean, to go off what you're saying, because, yes, I don't know that I really ever paid attention to where he was on the track. I just had to do what I had to do to even move.
Right.
You know, whether it be clear out my stuff or I'm hindered, I got cards flipped over, I just got to do what I can to move, period. So, yeah, I don't know that would have affected me at all. You know, the game isn't bad. It's, you know, it's kind of some pressure luck, you know, hand management, I guess, kind of style thing. And I say hand management just because you probably want to be diverse in what you have for whatever might come at you.
Right.
Actually having a lot of pairs is probably bad in this game. You want to kind of have a multiple.
It's like 1 pair is good, 2 pair like, oh, it's eating up a lot of my hand.
Right. And that's why I said that one time I had 3 pairs and I was like, I'm going to lose. I know whatever I run into on my next move, it's probably not going to be good. I would have liked to maybe seen an easier way for us to get some of the helpers or assistants out. I know you all said that in your all's demo play, you all had a lot more out than what we had.
Well,
even we played another time that night.
yeah, after you left, we played it again.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
I think typically you do get a couple, maybe not every one of them, every game, but you do get a couple to choose from throughout.
Yeah, it was very odd because we literally had none of I think one come out, and the only one or with you, Matt.
Yes.
The one that came out was at the end of the game. You can use her portrait card as a wild against Ivan.
Well, she came out and stayed the longest. We
That's
had
what I'm
one
saying.
dude for one round, I think.
Oh,
or
yeah.
two rounds before that, but
Yeah, but then she came out, replaced
Yes.
him for the rest of the
and
game.
she was there for the rest of the game,
And-
right?
And essentially, she's worthless for the whole game until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those cards are really nice because they do allow you to do.
And it seems like you can
Fun
only use her
stuff.
once.
You can only use her once. Yeah, you can only
Mhm.
activate those one time.
Hmm.
So it is powerful because it does give you an
Oh.
opt out on any icon that you don't have against them.
Right.
But the other ones are just really good. Like the blue dude, I don't remember his name. He's the only one that you discard two of him, and
Mhm.
you get to take basically another turn,
Right.
but it can't be the same action.
Hmm.
That was awesome.
Oh,
You
yeah.
could do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. It would have been cooler if they came out a lot more, but it is kind of a random thing. So maybe in the long run, it's like you're gonna see 2 or 3 of them throughout the game, and
Right.
maybe that's just kind of the normal. We
Yeah,
just
maybe just our playthrough.
right. What'd you think, Eric?
So I'm gonna preface it and say I did like the game quite a bit. However, and I also think it played well 2, 3, 4 players. And I think it'll also play well solo if anybody would be interested in doing that. But you also have to be okay with a lot of luck in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're traveling, you're flipping over a card. That's gonna be luck. Whether you have it in your hand, there's luck. You're rolling dice when the trader thing happens. There's more luck
Having
there.
them not land on you.
Oh,
is a
having the
big part of
tartars,
luck.
yeah, not land on you when you're traveling through. So, I mean, it's luck on luck on luck. So
Yeah,
you're gonna have to be kind of okay with that type of game if that appeals to you at all.
yeah. You pretty much got my next point. Was it does have a lot of luck involved, and especially those die rolls, man. Because like you can have I had like 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 1, 2, 3, and 4. I only did not activate an ability on a 5 or 6, and like half the game was 5s and 6s.
Mm-hmm.
But in our playthrough later that night, I feel like it went more of what it probably would go, like
More of a
that-
typical game.
like a typical playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
But even when we demoed this at Origins, I thought it was awesome. Like, I really like this game. I'm not much into racing so much, but this is a pressure luck style game with a race mechanism.
Well, when you see someone ahead of you too, you know exactly how far they're ahead of you. So you're like, okay, I'm back 2 spaces. I need to stay up with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that makes you press your luck even more.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, kind of going to the final thoughts. I enjoyed it. I'm going to keep it around. I think it's one thing I've really like about games is like small footprint games, like boards with a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And this has that.
Right.
I
There's
really
a lot
enjoyed
of
that.
gameplay in a smaller box.
Yeah. It's kind of like the same, maybe a little bit thicker box than the Fantasy Flight Silverline, like all the ones that, like the Elder Sign box and Team Manager.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the thinner boxes, but it's a little thicker than that. And it's about the same, 12 by 12, not 12 by 12, maybe like 8 by 8 or something. I don't know. Either way, though, it's really fun. If you like the novel, I think you're going to get even more enjoyment out of it because of how much it ties into the theme of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of theme in it. Even not reading the books or anything, I could sense a lot of, hey, that probably was something in the novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, final thoughts, Matt?
It was okay.
Fair enough. Eric?
Yeah, overall, I liked our playthroughs.
Cool. Well, that is Michael Strogoff.